I wake up in morning, first morning here, opposite building of P&B, which is quite tall building. There is view from window. Nice sunrise over there. Something flashing away in the middle of view. Don't know what it is for. Flashing away it is, very bright. And more of these very dramatic looking American buildings. And this more colonial looking from down there with interesting in the middle water tower. And as ever, ubiquitous flag of good old United States.
Used in Roman encampments, but we were the first city in the New World to use it. Revolutionary in the late 1600s, what it does today is make Philadelphia a very easy city in which to get around. Our main north-south streets are numbered, and your hotel is on Broad Street, which if it were numbered would be 14th Street. And our main east-west streets have tree names, in the English tradition of naming the streets for the living things in the area. We have turned onto the widest, broadest street running east and west in the city, and William Penn chose this area for his capital city because it was between two rivers, the Delaware, the eastern boundary of the city, and 2 miles west, the Schuylkill River. This street running from river to river. It was originally called High Street. That's what the English called their main street, High Street. But there were market stalls running up the center of the street, and people would talk about going to market. So popular usage, later legally, the name was changed to Market Street. Now that large building that we just were driving beside is our city hall, and it's in the exact center of the city. And on our left, going down the street, just behind this beautiful facade, is the Reading Terminal Farmers Market. And it's been a farmer's market for about 115 years. The Pennsylvania Dutch, the Amish, and the Mennonites come in Wednesday through Saturday. But the market is open every day, and it's fun to go there for breakfast, lunch, or even dinner. And you can see by these trolley tracks that we have had trolley routes in the city, greatly reduced at this point, but that was at one time the longest trolley route in the world. It went down into South Philadelphia, which is where historically the Italian immigrants came into the city, and then it went way up into Chestnut Hill, which is patterned after an English country town, Hilltown. On the left is the gallery. It's the first urban shopping mall in the country, and there are dozens and dozens of stores and restaurants. Here on the right is where we built a president's house during the period that we were the capital of the new United States. Every town and city wanted to be capital, and we pulled out all the stops and built a president's house there. Both George Washington and John Adams, our second president, thought the house was far too grand and neither would live in it. And it became the University of Pennsylvania. Now we welcome questions. It lets us know what you're interested in, so please do ask us if you do have questions. We're going to show you some of the highlights of the city, and we won't have time for everything, but an outline of his house, and he eventually owned these houses in this row. Here at 316, notice over the doorway, it says post office, but then there's a signature, Be Free Franklin. And this is a post office, and it is the place where you need to mail your postcards, because they will be hand-stamped, Be Free Franklin. When he was the postmaster, he had that written on every piece of mail. which gives you an idea of how much mail there must have been if it could be written on every single
Very good name of shop.
But today they hand stamp every piece, Be Free Franklin. And so you see stacks of special mail like wedding invitations and party invitations. I, however, take all my mail in there. I like it on the gas bill and birthday cards and everything else. There also is an area where they do printing. They demonstrate 18th century methods of printing. And that's a very popular place to visit. And there's an underground museum with items that belong to Franklin, things that he invented, and there's several movies, and there are telephones. And on the wall, a European exchange and an American exchange. You get to call a well-known person in history and find out what they thought about Franklin. On our left, Christ Church. And that steeple, for 56 years, made that the tallest building in North America. Quakers thought that was very showy, and they were very disapproving of it. But it was a beacon for ships coming into the
So they were so
harbor.
tolerant, and then when somebody makes a steeple they don't like.
Pilots still use the steeple to gauge
This is
coming
Ken's
into
Landing.
the Philadelphia harbor. We're just about 100 miles from the Atlantic Ocean here. Now for us, that church has been in existence for a very long time. The first church on the site was built in 1695, and they have not missed a service in 315 years. That structure is the new church, and it was begun in 1727. It was originally Church of England, and after the Revolution, we didn't want a lot to do with things English, and so the Church of England, the Anglican Church, became the Episcopal Church in this country. It's active. They're having services this morning, so we'll go by, but not go in. We're down near the Delaware River, which is one of the largest freshwater ports in the world, and we're near where William Penn landed. Between the two bridges, this is the Benjamin Franklin Bridge. A nautical mile south is the Walt Whitman Bridge, and that great American poet lived across the river in Camden, New Jersey. But for a nautical mile between the two bridges is an area that we call Penn's Landing, and there are all kinds of events there during the warm months of the year. There are ethnic festivals, restaurant festivals, all kinds of music festivals as well. Now we're coming up to what used to be Mulberry Street. Some of the names have changed, and just about where we are is where there was an engineering marvel of an arch that people would come to look at. And so this became Arch Street. And you'll notice a variety of architecture. There are colonial houses over here on the left, and here on the right, a cast iron building. This is a neighborhood called Old City, and one of the names for Philadelphia is City of Neighborhoods. We have over 100 different neighborhoods. There are 40-some art galleries here, and they're old factories that have been made into apartments. The Hoop Skirt factory apartments, the Wire Works, the Malt House, and others. And then there are houses dating from our colonial period. So we'll be taking you by Alfred's Alley in just a few minutes, which is the oldest street continuously lived on in the country. Now in this next block, mid-block, is the Betsy Ross house. Betsy Ross is the woman who sewed our first flag, and it's a site that school children love to visit. And you'll see a flag hanging out front. Some colonial era buildings again here on the right. And this little house is, of course, open to the public. Betsy Ross would have had her upholstery shop here in the front of the house, and most people did run their businesses from their home. That was true of doctors and lawyers and tradespeople. And there is a little fair going on here, and a wonderful gift shop, and tours of this little house. Now, we're going to be turning up 3rd Street, And there are a number of galleries. Okay. I'm sorry, we're going up to 5th Street. And coming up on our left behind this brick wall is a Quaker meeting house. And Quakers are the people who founded Pennsylvania. A number of the British colonies were founded for religious freedom. The Catholics had Maryland, the Puritans were up in New England, and the Quakers here. And you can see that this meeting house does not look like a usual house of worship. When we have school children, we'll say, how does this look different than any other house of worship you've ever seen? And they notice there are no stained glass windows, no steeple, no crosses or stars, no design whatsoever. And if we were to go in, it is just stark in its simplicity. But they are having a meeting this morning. They would welcome us if we wanted to go to meetings, but not just to come in and look around the meeting house. It's a site William Penn gave the land to the Quakers.
Limits to the tolerance of these tolerant people.
Benjamin Franklin and some of his friends founded what became the University of Pennsylvania, the oldest university in the country. There were colleges earlier, but the College of Philadelphia became a university before any other. Now this is the country burial ground for Christ Church. The church is 4.5 blocks away. We just passed it a few minutes ago. Here on the corner is where Benjamin Franklin is buried with his family. 5 signers of the Declaration of Independence are buried here, and all sorts of other people, known and not so well known. And by 1713, the churchyard around Christ Church at the corner of 2nd and Market had become so crowded, they felt they needed to open a new site. And so by 1713, this was open. And when you look in, I think you can get a sense of what it must have been like as countryside. This little building across the street is also a Quaker meeting house. Quakers are supposed to be pacifists, and about 200 wanted to bear arms during the Revolution. They were read out of meetings. Somebody took a document and read them out, and so they started their own meeting house. They called themselves the Free Quakers. Everyone else called them Fighting Quakers. So, point of view. And Betsy Ross was the last living members of that meeting. It is not active. This is the National Constitution Center. Until just a couple of years ago, we did not have a museum about the Constitution. And now this very popular site has opened up. And we're going to turn onto Race Street. Some of the old buildings still have the stone marker between the 1st and 2nd stories that say sassafras. But the young blades of the day would race their horses up this street and around the park where City Hall sits today, just beside your hotel. And people would talk about going to the Race Street. Houses of worship in the area. William Penn founded the colony for religious freedom. Of course, it was a time in the late 1600s when your government was telling you how to worship. If you didn't go along with it, you could be in grave danger. And Penn said if you believed in one God, you could come to Philadelphia in Pennsylvania and worship that God any way you wanted to. Many houses. Here on the right is a wall mural. We have over 3,000 of these wall murals. Probably from where you're from, there are people who take cans of paint and deface buildings. We have a program that has started as the Anti-Graffiti Network. And the Mural Arts Program has designed many beautiful murals throughout the city. And although there are over 3,000, there's a waiting list of about 3,000 neighborhoods wanting to have these murals in their neighborhoods. Our horticultural society then goes out and works with the neighborhood, helps them plan what sort of garden they would like, and so we can turn a whole neighborhood around. They suddenly have a work of art and a garden. This is an early firehouse, and you can look in and see the gleam of brass of some of the old fire engines. Here on the left is Alfred's Alley. This is the oldest street continuously lived on in the country. And I lived here for 10 years. I lived beside a house that Benjamin Franklin's good friend lived in. And so I love the idea that Franklin would have been visiting in the house next door to where I was living. Some of the houses are very small, what we call Trinity or Father, Son, and Holy Ghost houses. One small room on top of another. Families of 10 used to live in these little houses. Today it's usually 1 or 2 people. But King George would tax you according to the frontage of your property on a street. And people would build houses 2, 3, 4 behind each other and then all chip in and pay the same tax. And if you opened up 3 houses into one, you'll have a 6-bedroom house. None of them look that large, but some of them are.
Everybody, as Susan told you, my name's Carol, and I'm your other guide today, so I'm going to just talk to you a little bit. Section of the city we're in right now is, of course, called Old City. There's a lot of old houses in this area, and the first Friday of each month is called First Friday. There's a lot of art galleries down here and craft shops. And that first Friday of each month, they stay open late. All the restaurants are open, and it's quite busy and active down here. And over on our right, we're going past Christ Church again, which is, if you have some time, you might want to put that on your list of things to visit here in the city. Most of my groups that come to Christ Church, that's one of their favorite things to see here. They do have guides who will give you a talk on the city. And down here in Old City, and actually we're only about a mile from your hotel, so you can walk down here. You can see there are lots of restaurants, all different types of restaurants. We have Irish and Indian and Afghan and Mexican. I see the Belgian tavern over there. So there's plenty of types of restaurants that you can come and eat at. And the next great big building on your right is the U.S. Customs House. And we are going to be passing next on the right a small tavern called City Tavern. It's a brick building over here on the right. This is a reconstruction of the tavern where our founding fathers came after their meetings in Independence Hall, and they would talk about the day's event. So this tavern has been reconstructed, and it now operates as a restaurant, and the servers wear colonial costumes, and the meals have a colonial flavor also. Let's see, the street on your left is a Belgian block street. The street on your right is a cobblestone street. And Belgian blocks were used as ballast on ships coming from Europe in the early 1800s. And cobblestones on the right were gotten from the Delaware River during low tide. And many of the streets of Philadelphia are still paved with Belgian block, but they've been asphalted over. The big building on the right with the columns is the Commodities Exchange from the 1800s. And this is used by the Park Service as office space right now. And over on our left, we have the First Bank of the United States. This is a federal bank with a 20-year charter, which was not renewed. And this building was built in the 1790s. It was such an interesting building. People in the area had never seen something like this, so they used to drive 50 miles just to look at this bank building. And right now this also is offices of the Park Service. So we're going to start our walking tour right now. And
it's the Carpenter's Hall where they began the American Revolution, because they wrote a letter from here to King George saying, "You're no good for us." Benny Franklin wasn't so sure, he wanted the war, but younger radical elements were ready to fight against other English, because they themselves were English, and make a civil war against the other English in order to gain independence for their kind of Englishness, what they call America. And it all starts in this building. It's oldest guild in America, so it was made by guild, but its existing worshipful company of carpenters exists from 1100s, when the other guilds and Masonic style organizations, secret societies began, so, and they own it till today. So it's just an example of how this kind of organization has been very strong in shaping the history of this country and the world. As you can see here at the Benjamin Franklin's American Philosophical Society, the first learned society in the British plantations of America, they're now talking about Darwin. They're trying to persuade more Americans about the probably good ideas of Darwin. Well, some things he thought of were no doubt okay. Some of his breakfast choices maybe were okay, but his choices on the origins of the world were seriously flawed. So thankfully, in this most advanced nation in the world, there is also the majority of people who are skeptical about this 200-year-old fairy tale that human beings come from monkeys. So I'm standing at the right spot where was read out first time ever the Independence Declaration, Constitution. That time when people gathered here in this place, and when they, in front of this building, when they came they were English, when they walk away they were already members of glorious United States of America, a new country. And over there in Congress Hall, which is here, this was a place where they added later on the Bills of Rights, the First Amendment to Constitution. Very Georgian, so it's symmetrical on both sides. This is the middle, and the exact number of windows, chimneys don't count, but exact numbers of windows and features outside on both sides. Turret there behind there. We have it in our power to begin the world over again. That's what wrote Thomas Paine in 1776. That Declaration of Independence is true today as well of internet. Here is inkstand, the Sing inkstand. This was used for signing of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights also. So we just got going into Independence Hall. This is place of signings, Declaration Chamber. Here Continental Congress said 1775 is Independence Hall. Going to go banister what all John Adams and James Madison Square Gardens and Benji Franklin and all of them all come from the original. This is court building in pumpkin orange. I have to use here in House of Liberty bell. This lovely bell taken from famous Whitechapel in London. First of all, in the time of King George, you had to buy bell and a number of other things as well from England. You couldn't in the colonies make on bell because it was a protected, and so that William Penn ordered from Whitechapel this original bell, and first time it go up onto the top of this Independence Hall and start to ring, the very first time they ring it cracks, which doesn't sound too good because it was supposed to be the Liberty Bell. On top of it there was made the verse from Leviticus 25:10, pronounced liberty to all the land, to the inhabitants thereof. It was supposed to be to encompass the idea of religious freedom that William Penn wanted in his country. The kind of government that he wanted. So this Liberty Bell also was ringing even when the Constitution was signed and the Declaration of Independence was signed. It was then repaired by local company who chop it up and put it back together in a melting forge, and then even after a certain length of time crack comes back. Obviously a very big bell is difficult to keep stable and change its tone, and they discovered that is in it this crack, and so the way to repair a crack in a bell, this is Chief Little Bear, this bell, is obviously to, and that's the song, the Monty Python song is the Liberty Bell song. It's by John Philip Sousa. Hope I don't have to pay royalty for this to Mr. Sousa. I just added a bit of David in Monty Python. and hit the bell in it.
Very good, Mike.
So this bell is a symbol of the freedoms of the world. There's Mr. Daly next to it, there's Mr. Mandela. Proclaim liberty throughout all the land, and to all the inhabitants thereof. Leviticus 25 verse 10, by order of the Assembly of the Province of Pennsylvania, with one end, for the State House in Philadelphia.
The Liberty Bell soon became one of America's greatest symbols of liberty and freedom. It inspired suffragist Catherine Rauschenberg in her fight for equal rights for women, including the right to vote. In 1915, she built a new...
We're allowed to touch this. It's for freedom. Proclaim liberty throughout all the land. That's what I'm trying to do. Proclaim the liberty throughout all the land and to all the inhabitants of the internet. Leviticus 25, verse 10. And here we are.
Era cambio, era
It means?
Penn's
No?
Woods.
Okay. It means Penn's Woods or Penn's Forest. And the name Philadelphia is a Greek word. Any
Brotherly
ideas
love.
about that?
Brotherly
No?
love.
Okay. Philadelphia means city of brotherly love. Now, the Quakers were also known as brothers. And there is a city called Philadelphia in the Bible. And today, that is the city of Amman, Jordan. So, anybody who would like to, you can go visit our City Hall. They do take tours on Mondays through Fridays, and you can take an elevator up to the base of the statue of William Penn, which is the largest freestanding sculpture atop a building in the world. You get a really good view of the city and the suburbs. And City Hall took 30 years to build, and they had hoped to have it be the tallest building in the world when it was completed. But when it was completed, it was surpassed by the Eiffel Tower in France in height, and there's no steel in City Hall. Actually 7 floors and with 100 rooms on each floor, and over 300 sculptures and statues. It's quite an interesting building. They do a lot of movies here, and shopping. Oh, and murals too. Shopping. We have Macy's department store over on our left. That's the only Macy's here, or I'm sorry, department store in Center City, Philadelphia. And Susan talked to you a little about the murals. We have the mural was over on the wall on the right there. Oh, okay. In Macy's, we have a great big organ, and there's a concert. It's one of the largest organs in the world. There's a concert at 11 o'clock every day, if you'd like to go in and hear that. Macy's has a really nice courtyard inside. It's very pretty. There's a great big statue of an eagle. For Philadelphians, like to say, meet me at the Eagle when they go shopping. It's a good meeting place for everybody.
You see a great deal of sculpture in Philadelphia. 1% of building costs on redeveloped land must go to a work of art. And the form that usually takes is sculpture in front of the building. It needs. It can be mobile, mural, sculpture within the building. Work on our right is by Jacques Lifshitz, the great 20th century sculptor. And in this park, a little ahead of us to the right is the Love Sculpture by Robert, Indiana. And then everything, prints, posters, jewelry, note cards, even a postage stamp. And we feel it's appropriate that we have it since we're the city of brotherly love. Here on the right is a 4.5-story clothespin by the pop sculptor Oldenburg. And he feels that everyday objects are often very well designed, and if only we take a closer look, we would see that. And we're back now at the hotel. Again, much more to see in Philadelphia than we've had time to cover, so we hope you'll come back. And thank you very much for joining us today.
The other side.
This land is